Banyana took time to settle in. Andile Dlamini was tested quite a few times. I remember, I did the match report for the Star, and I remember counting that on 8 minutes there was a chance that she helped clear, and then there was that other chance where she couldn't, and on 11 minutes she blocked the ball, but it spun and almost went in with the coach having soured and whatever. I'm not going to give that credence because I don't know. But yes, as a country, as a national team, that means, well, you want your best players to be there. But this is typical South Africa, as I'm saying to you. I used to cover football where a Benny McCarthy pulls out. And the narrative in the past would always be the players are spoiled, or they play in Europe, therefore they no longer want to play for our team. But the reality of it, when you then find out, is there's all these dynamics that the association don't treat these guys like 140, and you don't get that in the men's game. It's very rare. Maybe they play more, but also there's more consistency. Whereas and also I think it's because the competition is not that high. With the men's game, you are in today, you don't perform.
Out tomorrow if you don't perform.
Whereas with the women's game, the pool is, I think it's very small. So that's why these girls can play up to 140, 150. And Jermaine has really served. Her performance was not the greatest this tournament, I think. I think she could have done better. Girls don't bring a medal. Initially, I was saying, if they don't win, let's go pelt them with rotten tomatoes. You know what they do in Italy? You come back and you haven't won, they hoy rotten tomatoes. But now, they deserve it. Even if they don't bring the medal, they've done well. But I think they will. They have to.
Matsalane Mamabolo, South Africa's most successful soccer writer.
You Pirates fans were looking for Rulani to come. You guys are unrealistic. Rulani Mukwena, Pirates.
3 times winner of Premiership Soccer Writer of the Year and 3 times winner of the Sports Writer of the Year.
Welcome to Inside SA Soccer, usually with Brajakes. Today we've got a different scenario, somewhat of a takeover. I hope that you are doing well. Brajakes, are you well?
I'm fine, thank you, Aaron. I'm not really well. It's still reeling from Banyana not getting to the final. But that's football, and what can we say? The title is not coming back home. I think that's the sad thing.
Most certainly. Defending champions heading into the first semi-final last night, playing against Nigeria. There was a lot of expectations on the table. We were a little bit concerned, given what we saw against Senegal, the fact that it was a 0-0 draw and they had to progress through penalties as well.
Yeah.
The first 10 minutes in that encounter, Brajakes, you and I were communicating last night as we were watching the game, and we both said that things are not looking good for Banyana. In terms of physicality, Nigeria was a lot more dominant, and they were more intentional in terms of the football that they played.
Look, it looked like they wanted to score as early as possible. They wanted to kill the match off as a contest as early as possible, and they tried. But Banyana took time to settle in. Andile Dlamini was tested quite a few times. I remember, I did the match report for the Star, and I remember counting that on 8 minutes there was a chance that she helped clear, and then there was that other chance where she couldn't, and on 11 minutes she blocked the ball, but it spun and almost went in, and I think it was Gamede who then helped clear it off. So they were under the cosh from very early on, and you could see we were struggling, and even when that storm sort of ceased, what I found was Banyana struggled to piece their passes together. It was, the passes looked to either they went away. Gamede in particular, I felt they tried to do the normal Banyana thing of playing from the back, which is what they know. But a lot of times the passes were just going to the opposition, and we were actually very fortunate that we were not punished for that. But they eventually settled, as much as Nigeria scored first. I think they then settled, and we started seeing some semblance of the Banyana we know. But as everybody then knows, at the end, we lost that match.
In terms of just looking at the way Banyana played, you touched on just your analysis of the game. When you look at that first goal that was scored by Nigeria from the penalty spot, it just showed the pressure that Nigeria was putting on Banyana Banyana, especially looking at the defensive structures.
Yeah.
And you spoke about Andile and just how important she is to Banyana, but she struggled last night.
Yeah, she wasn't her usual self. I think also, I mean, you speak of that goal. If you remember how it came, it tells you that a team is under so much pressure when a defender is caught facing her goal, because Mbambani, that handball that she made, she was going towards her own goal, and that shouldn't be. As a defender, you must always be facing away from your goal so that you block. So, but that talked to the pressure. Yes, Andile was not her usual self, especially early on. I felt she was not in control of the defense in terms of the communication, and I feel because we play from the back, we then were too close to her. It's actually, in a way, when you reflect, you look at it and you think we were actually fortunate not to have conceded more than what we did. That goal, as you say, we were just always caught, almost flat-footed. Some people were saying, "Oh no, it's not a penalty," but you don't touch the ball in your box like that, and it goes any other way. Look, we speak about Andile not having been herself, but that penalty. She tried. Penalties are penalties. I mean, especially during the match, during kick, what do we call, officially it's called kicks from the penalty spot. Those ones goalkeepers can say, but during the match, it's very hard. You very rarely see goalkeepers saving penalties during the match. She tried. She got a hand to it, but the ball was hit very powerfully, and she couldn't keep it out.
In terms of that penalty, she got close.
Yeah.
And it's something that we know her for. She did so in the quarterfinal, helping Banyana Banyana progress to the semi-final. But previously, we spoke about her place in the sticks.
Yeah.
We also spoke about the fact that Swart was being rotated.
Yeah.
In terms of you looking at the squad holistically, is she the number one shot stopper for
Andile?
Andile, yeah.
No, she is. Look, she's the best we have. You see her when she plays at club level. She's doing well. I don't think, based on what happened against Nigeria, we should start doubting her. A lot of people are going to look at that winner. I mean, we haven't gotten there yet, but when you saw that ball, it's a tricky ball, hey, because I don't even think the kicker was trying to score, Olozi. So she was, getting it into the box. It takes a weird bounce. I feel for that goal also, our defenders were just caught sleepy because when the ball bounced, Andile is faced with two Nigerian players, and she, I think she expected one of them to touch the ball. That's why she went the way she went. But the ball didn't touch. None of them touched it, and it went in. But I blame our defense there. To allow that kind of ball to bounce the way it did, and with those Nigerians not having anybody trying to block them. But it's what it is. I heard Coach Desiree saying afterwards that a lot changed because of what happened to Gabriel Salgado. I don't know if I agree with that. Yes, emotionally, what happened, we'll talk about that, affected the players. But the entire match, when you looked at it, Nigeria were the better team. There was a time when we after we equalized, where we started looking like we have control, we made the passes. There were quite a few passes. Think of it, there was that opportunity, the substitute, not Kolo Tesani, I don't remember when. Was it Jermaine who hit the ball? Yes, Jermaine crossed the ball, and she was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. She did what she had to do, got it through the keeper's legs, but the touch was not strong enough for the ball to go over the line, and a Nigerian defender cleared. And that goes in, South Africa win the match. But that's the sport. You get an opportunity, you have to use it. You don't use it, you're going to be punished. And I think that's what happened. But when you also think about it historically, we generally do not beat Nigeria. We did beat them in the previous tournaments, but I think a lot of people, if you were realistic, when that match started, I would say no matter, as much as we were the defending champions, Nigeria were the favorites going in. They went into that match having not conceded a goal in all their group matches and the quarterfinals, so they were favorites. And as you said at the beginning, we saw how we struggled against the big Senegalese, and those Nigerian kids are huge, and they were very physical. They were pushing. So We did well to get to the semis. As defending champions, you'd want to win it, but there's very few countries in the world win a continental title and defend it. Nigeria are essentially the only ones really at the Africa Cup of Nations who have done that. So it's painful that we didn't win, but it's not the end of the world. We still have the bronze medal to play for.
We have to talk about what happened to Gabriella. I think a lot of South Africans would almost say that was the moment where the game was lost. I would argue otherwise. I mean, we're struggling throughout the whole encounter. But given what you saw, and for those of us that didn't really see the moment, you know, it was a moment that took place, and then all of a sudden we saw the players running to the side and covering their faces, and most of them were crying. What did you see in that moment, and what did you make of it?
My
and the impact in the game?
So funny. My initial reaction was, I thought, because I saw there was a player who almost she tried an overhead kick, and I thought they kicked Gabi on the face. That was my initial reaction. But when you watched, you could see, I mean, the reaction of the players told you they'd seen something horrific. And slow motion and getting to watch a little bit, I can't even explain it, but it looked like a proper broken leg. Now, you saw the players' reactions. I mean, they were crying. Now, that's... And to clearly show it was bad, even the Nigerian players, when they came, the reaction was exactly the same. Everybody shocked, some crying and having to call for the bench and the doctors to come over. And I think for me, the sad thing for that is Gabi got injured prior to the 2022 Nations Cup, so she missed out. And now she comes in, she's doing well. She started the match because the previous matches she'd been coming on as a sub. And then for that to happen, it's a physical contact sport. It's football. Injuries happen, but no one wants that to happen to any player. The South African Football Association have not yet said what exactly it was. The statement that came from their medical department was that it's a horrific injury. We are still waiting for the hospital. They haven't said what it is. But the impact of that, I'm not going to agree with Coach Desiree that we lost because of that, because that's football. If you are a sportsman at that level, you know that these things happen, and no matter what happens, if somebody dies on the pitch and the referee says match continues, you have to just die for that moment, forget about what happened, try and win, and then we'll cry later. Not easy, I'm saying it, but I just know it's hard. I think, if anything, what should have happened is, you know what? Our teammate is injured. Let's get into the final for her. Yeah. But the period was too small.
Yes.
So I mean, I was speaking to a colleague who covers Banyana Banyana, and she was saying, after that moment, even herself, she just couldn't continue. She's very attached to the team. She knows the girls personally, and she was saying it was so hard. She even said my match report was late. She was saying maybe they should have waited a little longer after that incident for the players to recover, but sport does not work like that. It's the ideal way, but no. You are injured, we take you to the hospital. I mean, we had that incident. Okay, they stopped the match. I remember when Durban City played last season, towards the end of the match, a player died. During pre the match, actually got injured, taken to the hospital, and they died. And the referees decided, but there was no death here. An injury is part of the game, and yeah, it's painful for they're close. You see, once you are in a team, it's like brothers and sisters. So in this case, sisters. So when one of your sisters is that injured, it's bound to affect you. But should it affect you to the extent that you lose the match? I don't think so. I don't think, and I wouldn't say they didn't try to play. They played. It was a free goal that happened. Yeah. I feel they should have defended it better, but these things happen and we move on. I heard Coach Des as well saying, we are going to try and get bronze for Gabi, and that's what they should do. At least let's come home with a medal.
Looking at the second semi-final that was played last night, it was Ghana taking on Morocco, 1-1 draw, and then Morocco, the host nation, booking a spot in another final. In terms of that bronze medal match that we will now play against Ghana, we did beat them in the group stages. Should we put our money on Banyana Banyana?
They have to.
It's a foregone conclusion. We've beaten them
No,
before.
you can never say that. There's no therefore in football. Look, I mean, I was surprised. I watched a bit of the second semi-final, and Ghana scored first, which surprised me because I thought Morocco will walk it. They didn't. So that talks to the fact that Ghana are not going to be easy. Yes, we beat them. And when they are going to come in with revenge on their mind. And when you play those kind of teams, it tends to be very difficult. The question is, what state of mind are the players going to be in Banyana players, that is? Do we have, I don't know whether they have your psychologist and all that to talk to the girls, because I think the match is on Friday. All that they should be doing now, you don't even have to train. It's a bronze medal match you've played. It's here. Are they going to get the girls to get over what happened? One, they'll be very disappointed that they didn't make the final because they wanted to, but also Gabby's injury is going to. So if they can get over that, not necessarily, you get what I'm saying, they must think about it and say, it's part and parcel of the game. She will get healed. She'll be fine. Let's get this medal for her. I think we showed in the opening match that we can beat Ghana. We beat them 2-0. We should beat them, but it should not be taken for granted that this is a match we are going to walk. But I want us to bring the medal, and I think we should.
That bronze medal match will be played on Friday at 9 o'clock. In terms of the big final, that's 10 o'clock on Saturday. Nigeria booking their spots in their 10th final. Morocco, we know at the last AFCON, they reached the final, but they were heartbroken by Banyana Banyana. And how do you see this one playing out?
Another heartbreak for Morocco, I think. Look, Nigeria have they are the strongest team on the continent, and as they're saying, they're going for title number 10. You don't fail when you have such motivation. You saw them against Banyana Banyana, just how good they are. They play very well. They're very strong, never give up. So if you ask me, I would predict that Nigeria will win this one. So it's bridesmaids again for the host nation, Morocco. I think that's my view.
A painful one would say. Let's look at this tournament holistically for Banyana Banyana. Before they even started competing in Morocco, we heard that there was a strike within the camp as they were building up
Typical South Africa,
to their warm-up matches.
Yeah.
It's such a sad story to tell. I think there's this balance where we expect them to do well because they're defending champions and we as supporters rally behind them. But behind closed doors, they are not supported. Do you think that actually impacted the players? Because we even heard Safa coming out during the tournament saying that no, the ladies will receive their bonuses from earlier this year, March and May, on the 15th of July. And we never heard Safa coming back and saying, we've paid them. You know? So all of these things are quite difficult to deal with when you have to actually compete at the highest level in the WAFCON.
Yeah, listen, it's the story of South African football, very sadly so, that the administrators just don't seem to take the players very seriously. It's something that's been happening since we got back into international football. It's not new. Benny McCarthy spoke about being owed monies from the 1997 Africa Youth Championships when they reached the final in Morocco. Sure. So these guys who run our football expect, and as a country, we, like you say, we support our team. You are the defending champions. We know you are good. We expect you to go win. But how does a player give their best when there's this whole thing, I haven't been paid, maybe my tickets, I mean, we've had, I don't know if it happened with this one, but in the past you'd hear stories of a Benny or a Quinton saying, I have to come back from England to come to South Africa, but they haven't sent me my flight ticket. So those are the things. And when you actually think of what transpired before these girls went there, for them to reach the semis as they did, it's something incredible. Because they did well. I support them that they went on strike and said, until Safa came in and said, no, we will sort it out. How do you, I mean, I watched those friendlies. They played Zambia it was a 3-nation tournament. How do you not pay them before they go to an international tournament? These are the defending champions of the continent, and they didn't do that. The girls rightfully said, if you don't pay, we are going to down tools, and they did. SAFA came out and said, we spoke to them, we are going to set it out, that's fine. And the girls went, the SAFA haven't come out to say we've paid them, the players have not said yet, they probably have, it's up to them to tell us. But for the girls to then go and perform the way they did, go through the group stages unbeaten. Oh no, they didn't they lose to Tanzania? What was Tanzania's score?
It was a 0-0 draw.
We played with, but they got to the semi-finals, and that's credit to them. But this has to end. The South African Football Association need to start taking our national teams much more seriously. You will remember also that prior to the tournament, there's been this talk that Sasol are pulling out, or the story I hear is not necessarily pulling out. The contract is due for renewal. There's renegotiations that are still going to and fro. But you would think that an association like the South African Football Association would have known that the contract is coming to an end. We are going to a big tournament. Let's talk to our sponsors and say, guys, what do we do? Are we going forward? How are we going forward? Let's meet each other. We agree. That hasn't happened yet. And that's the thing. So you are playing for Banyana Banyana and you're like, oh, Sasol are getting out. We haven't been paid. It's bound to affect you. We had the prior to the tournament quite a few retirements. Thembi Kgatlana, I don't know if it's a retirement. One of the stars of the team pulling out.
What is the actual story there, Brad?
I don't know.
Because there are rumors and speculations. Because when the squad was announced, there are certain players that you think, it's a given.
Yes.
You know, she's even with not just in the squad, she's in the starting lineup. You know, and even last night during that game, you look at how they're playing and you're like, are they missing? Are they missing a Thembi in these moments to be more clinical, to show that maturity, to, like, sometimes you need a player to say, give me the ball. I can win you the game. And Thembi is that player. So when we now reflect, we wonder why she never played. Because to me, at least to my mind, if a player is injured, it's quite easy for them to say the player is injured. For us, they said it's personal reasons. And what are those personal reasons?
I don't cover Banyana that much to be able to have. I mean, I'm thinking somebody maybe could have, especially the guys who cover Banyana a lot. I mean, in where we work, we have this whole, you are the Banyana guy, you are. None of the guys that I know who cover Banyana have been able to get to the bottom of what exactly are these personal reasons. Speculation, of course, is always there. People talking about the relationship with the coach having soured and whatever. I'm not going to give that credence because I don't know. But yes, as a country, as a national team, that means, well, you want your best players to be there. But this is typical South Africa, as I'm saying to you. I used to cover football where Benny McCarthy pulls out. And the narrative in the past would always be the players are spoiled, or they play in Europe, therefore they no longer want to play for our team. But the reality of it, when you then find out, is there's all these dynamics that the association don't treat these guys like the assets that they are for the national team. And you sit and say, why should I bother? I don't know. We will maybe one day find out exactly why Thembi didn't go to the national, to the Africa Cup of Nations. Would we have done any better with her? I don't know, because if you remember the previous one, she got injured early. She didn't really play a huge part in us winning that. So you can't then say we would have won it had she been there. But we all know what influence she would have had. Look, I think we just need to run our football a little better. Personal things will always be there. The rumors that people will say about coach and player not getting on, that happens. That is part of story. It happens everywhere. Each coach has their own player, and if coach and player, especially an influential player, if coach and player don't get along, one has to stay at home. You're not going to leave the coach at home. The coach, even as a coach, I would do that if it means there's beef or whatever. But it's the national team, and sometimes you think, let's do what's best for the nation. But Listen, funny, we are speaking here as if South Africa didn't really, we were knocked out in the first round. We are still at the tournament. We are going to be playing in the bronze medal.
Because we were expecting them to at least reach the final.
Was it a realistic expectation, though? I mean, let's think about it. We are the defending champion, and you're thinking, but you've got Nigeria there. You've got, really, it's Nigeria. And we just happened to meet them in the semis, and we could have beaten them. We beat them in the past before, but we know we generally struggle against the Super Falcons.
Yeah. As we look towards the future, just before we started the tournament, we heard of Jermaine announcing the fact that this will be her last international tournament with Banyana Banyana. Given her form throughout this whole WAFCON, what did you make of her performance, firstly? But secondly, how great of a loss is she for the national women's team?
Look, players come and go, hey? Jermaine has served the national team very well. She's a legend. I was listening to the match. It's what fascinates me about women's football, the number of caps these girls have. It's like you hear about 140, and you don't get that in the men's game. It's very rare. Maybe they play more, but also there's more consistency. Whereas and also I think it's because the competition is not that high. With the men's game, you are in today, you don't perform.
Out tomorrow if you don't perform.
Whereas with the women's game, the pool is, I think it's very small. So that's why these girls can play up to 140, 150. And Jermaine has really served. Her performance was not the greatest this tournament, I think. I think she could have done better. She played the matches. I mean, I watched all their matches. She was playing on the side. I don't know how often, but she made, you could feel what they say, Jermaine. But I think she could have scored. She didn't score. She created a few chances. I feel that chance that she created for Nokolo against Nigeria, that we should have buried because then. But look, she served the game very well. She still plays international. I think she won't stop like Noko. She'll continue playing club football, and let's let her go. There's the new kid, is it Donnelly? Lady that everybody loves. I've seen articles there. They're talking about the girl and not the player, and everybody's so excited. They say, "Oh yeah, Sunday World are crazy." I saw that article and I'm like, tabloids.
Even those that don't watch women's football, we know her very well.
But that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes the reality of women's football is in fact football. Think about it. When girls watch football, they'll Dr. Kumalo, did you see his legs? So Donnelly is, maybe it's that eye candy for people to go watch. But I think the one thing about her, we've seen her, she scored that goal. She's a player. She might look good, but she also delivers. She's very strong. And I've heard that she used to admire Jermaine, and she spoke about how great it is to play with Jermaine. And Jermaine has been, during this period of the tournament, sort of her mentor. So Jermaine is going, but we have a replacement. We are not going to say she's going to be Jermaine, but there is a replacement. I think South African football, women's football has really grown in leaps and bounds because players will get out. I mean, who would have thought Banyana? I mean, there was a time when you couldn't think Banyana without a Janine van Wyk.
Yes.
But we saw her on TV there analyzing, and the girls are going on. Nukumatlo was a superstar. First, she was a good striker scoring goals, converted to defense, and she was just superb. And you start thinking, are we going to do without her? So it's cycles. Players come and go. The Hollywood Beds League is producing players. I think, as Coach Des always says, the hope is for football to be professionalized. I mean, I still sit here and think, how is it that, but it also talks to SAFA and the PSL not getting along proper. Because logic says, you create a professional women's league and have all the 16, if you play in the Premiership, you must have a women's league. Just like they have with the Diski Challenge.
That's how they have it in England as well.
Every club that plays in the Premiership must have. Then the league, the South African Women's Professional League is made up of the teams that are in the elite league of the men. Then, but I don't know why, because I remember, I think there was also a sort of directive from CAF, I think, that said clubs must have women's teams so that if you are going to compete in continental football. And if we were to do that, then I think we will even get to the World Cup and be competent, because then you've got players who are continuously playing competitive football, instead of now where they get brought together when we're going to some play in the Hollywood. The good thing is we've had quite a few now moving overseas, so and that shows in how we are performing on the continental stage.
That's quite an interesting observation, because you see it often in England, and especially like when you look at South African rugby, where when it comes to sponsorship, because a sponsor would be focusing on the men's team, but when the sponsorship deal is presented, they would say you have to sponsor the men's team and the ladies' team.
Yeah.
And that's how some of the female clubs in Europe are actually profitable.
Yes.
Because they know that if the guys are doing well, the ladies will always be provided for. And it's quite important for us to think of the business side in terms of how we support women's football. Because to me, like we've seen this conversation being had on social media, is why doesn't a Orlando Pirates or a Kaizer Chiefs have a women's team? Because we know that they've got the financial muscle. And to me, being somewhat of a skeptic, thinking of the business side, I always ask, but is it profitable? Because that would have been a very easy conversation for them to say, we've got the facilities, we've got the capital. I'm sure there are women around those areas that want to play. Let's develop them.
And who would it look at what's happening with Sundowns? I mean, when you watch the match, Banyana Banyana, the majority are former Sundowns or Sundowns players. So TS Galaxy also have. Kaizer Chiefs, to their credit, they don't have their own club yet, but they have teamed up with a team called, I don't know the full name, but Sweepers, a team coached by Keshe Mkonza, a former Chiefs legend, a former Banyana Banyana player. Just the other day when Chiefs were launching their jersey, actually, Jessica spoke about it, and they've said they've partnered with this club. I mean, their former player, Mkonza, is coaching it. It's his club. And Jessica was saying they are going to help them run this club, help them move up to the next level. They are not in the top league, but they'll help them. So at least now we know that Kaizer Chiefs are getting involved. Maybe over time they might rename, or even if they don't, but I would say they should, because then even the sponsors, they want to be partners with Chiefs. And then hopefully Orlando Pirates follow. Because the reality of South African football is when these two big clubs, whatever they do, everybody else follows. And they'll set an example to say. And once they do, it's very easy then to bring this idea of everyone who's in the Premier League must have a women's football team. And then we have a proper functional league that we will see as, look, I think we've been to 2 Olympics, successive Olympics, we've been to the World Cup, and I think we will get competitive there.
In terms of the growth of women's football, for me as a football fan, I often wonder why sponsors are pulling out. And so often we have the business conversation. In your way of just looking at the landscape of women's football in this country, how can we make women's football more attractive? And also, how can we build it in the right way? Because you need supporters in the stands so that sponsors can see that there are people willing to pay for a ticket to support this product.
It will take a while. I mean, look, Banyana Banyana we thought, if you remember when Banyana Banyana did very well at the World Cup and moved into the next round of the tournament, everybody thought all little girls wanted to play football. And I think as a country, we missed the boat there, because that was an opportunity to just go crazy about it and go big, just go big. We haven't done that. We missed the boat, but it can be done. I think having these PSL clubs having their thingy, we've changed. Football has changed. In the past, I remember when we grew up, Kaizer Chiefs would be playing, and their reserve team would be playing as a curtain raiser before the main match. Now think about it. So now there's this whole new thing. Oh no, the top teams can't go onto the pitch after some people have been onto the pitch. That's what stops the curtain raisers. But I'm thinking, if you did that and you had the Kaizer Chiefs women playing before the main Kaizer Chiefs team plays, you're bound to, the people are buying tickets, it's 2 in 1. But what it does is then the women's football grows on us. And when we separate it, people are so used to watching, they'll go and buy tickets. But on its own, it's still not as attractive. Sometimes you watch, I think there was a match I watched, was it Banyana? And it was like, I remember saying to somebody, it's like watching Stuart Little. I don't know if you watched the movie. Because the ball, no, like, I don't remember, but it's the 5 players running to the ball, like, you know, it's the structure. It will take time. But women's football has grown, and we just need to make a concerted effort to make sure that we get it there. It has to start in the schools. They have to make it, you know, let the girls play. Start early on, we grow with it. Used to be going to the stadium. But I think the quick fire way is have every PSL club have their women's team. When the main team when Chiefs are playing TS Galaxy, the TS Galaxy and Chiefs women, you do a similar fixture. They play each other. Then I bet you will have people watching that match because you get to the stadium early, there's something to watch. And then it grows into us. But I don't know. I just think SAFA and the PSL need to sit together and say, how do we do this? Yeah. And SAFA need the PSL.
It's quite interesting that you mentioned that because that's exactly what the Bulls are doing. The Bulls Daisies are the only professional women's rugby team in this country. Yeah. And that's exactly what they do. They know that when you purchase a ticket for the Bulls, the curtain raiser is always the woman. And what they've done a few times now for the final is they would actually have the men be the curtain raiser for the ladies. The women. So then they know that the stadium is already full. Yes. And once the people are there, the MCs and the DJs motivate people to stay for the women. Yeah. And over time, and fortunately I've been there to see the growth of women's rugby, you know, specifically at the Bulls, because they know that most of the attention is on the men. Yes. And if you use the men as a catalyst to build interest in the women, it works quite well. And
I mean, can you imagine now? You know how crazy rugby is in terms of the pitch. They mess the pitch up, but when the match ends, there'll be those guys with the rakes fixing it. Why can't we do it in football? It's a no-brainer. I think, like I say, but I know I've been in South African football for long. It's this whole SAFA and PSL not getting along together thing that is stopping that. But once they just sit in a room and say, we want to change this, it will happen. And I think we'll have a time where someday South Africa will win a big international tournament if we can do that, because the talent is there.
Yeah. As a parting shot, we are slowly but surely running out of time. We have to talk about Desiree Eliis.
Yeah. Dr. Desiree Eliis, they say.
Please, Dr. Desiree Eliis, forgive me. In terms of the way forward for her and the squad, what do you think that is?
Look,
could we see her coaching in Europe? Is Banyana Banyana the ultimate?
I think she shouldn't. I think if I'm Des, I would go somewhere else. Whether in Africa or Europe club where she's proven herself. I think Desiree Eliis should be known the world over now as a very good coach. If I were her, I would want to go and try a club in Europe if it's possible. If not, a national team on the continent, a different national team, just to go and test myself out there. But I think Europe is where she should go. I don't know what her contract is. We've heard stories that she doesn't have a contract and all that. I don't see why she should stay. I think the next World Cup is not this year. I think there's another Nations Cup coming up next year because this one was moved. It should have been last year. So there's the next Nations Cup. Does she want to go to another Nations Cup? I wouldn't want to if I were. If opportunities are there, I would say Desiree should start thinking about going to clubs in Europe, and I'm sure she can get that. Even if it's Asia, we're saying Europe, but you can go. There's quite a lot of places. Go to Australia, go to New Zealand, just outside the country. I think it's time we moved away. As Banyana Banyana, I think she served us very well, and we are very grateful. But I think we need a new coach, just to refresh the squad and start anew. The very same kids who are there. There's that. What's her name? Her assistant coach who's been there, she used to coach the UWC. She's a good coach. I think they must upgrade her, and then Des must go and shine somewhere else in the world. I think she's ended.
Before she leaves for Europe, hopefully she brings home a bronze medal.
Oh no, she'll bring that. They have to. I sometimes I was telling somebody, I'm like, if these girls don't bring a medal, initially I was saying, if they don't win, let's go pelt them with rotten tomatoes. You know what they do in Italy? You come back and you haven't won, they rotten tomatoes. But now they deserve it. Even if they don't bring the medal, they've done well. But I think they will. They have to.
They definitely will.
Yeah.
But Jakes, thank you so much for allowing me to take
To
over
steal my show.
here on Inside SA Soccer. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, the conversation continues on our social media platforms. Remember, it's Omni Audio Africa on every single platform you can imagine. And of course, we would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.